Hey everybody, what's up? My name is Gabe and this is Games with Gabe. This is the next tutorial in the Python for Absolute Beginners series. In this tutorial, we're going to begin to go over a concept called loops, which is another control structure in a programming language. So if you recall from the last tutorial, what we got to was basically if you write if something is true and then you want to do whatever is in here, then it will do whatever is in that block. And then you can alternate this with an else or an else if, and that will allow you to do multiple different selections. And then you can also insert Boolean expression, so something like if 4 is greater than 8, which it's not, then do this, and then it will not do that because 4 is not greater than 8. So in this tutorial, what we're going to start to go over is loops, but before we do that, I would just encourage you to go to Google and then type in Visual Studio Code and then hit download Visual Studio Code. It looks like this. This is their symbol. And then just download it for whatever machine you have. This is just a text editor, but it's a little bit nicer than Python's built-in one. And I'm going to open it up. I've already installed it. And then just open up, click in here, and then hit open folder. And just open whatever folder you're going to be working in. I'm just going to work in the downloads. Then you can hit new file. And then save it into that same folder that you opened up. So I'm just going to call this temporary.py, and then I will replace it. And then what you can do after that is hit terminal and hit new terminal, and now you're set up to start writing code. That might have been a little bit complicated, but it's not that bad. You're just simply opening up a folder over here, and then you're opening up your file right here. And Visual Studio Code also automatically recognizes what programming language you're typing in, so it has highlighting built in. So if I type in if here, you'll see that it's highlighted, true is highlighted, so it knows what we're dealing with. Okay, so what are loops? Say, for example, you want to do something several times. What if I told you print out the numbers 1 through 100? You could go print 1, print 2, print 3, ... keep going. That's going to take a really long time. What I would suggest to do instead, programmers knew this too, and they were like, well, we have to come up with something better than this because this is just ridiculous. There's no sense in doing that 100 times over when you could just abstract that away and create something simpler. So they came up with the concept of something called a loop. So what is a loop? It's just, it goes around and it goes around and it goes around. It does the same thing over and over again. Let's create a variable. We will call this counter. Let's set that equal to 0, and then type in while counter is less than 100, colon, it's going to automatically tab. You want that tab there, the indentation, because if you don't have it, then your code will not work properly. Then we'll say print counter, and then we'll say counter equals counter plus 1. Okay, save that, Control S, and then click down here into your terminal, and then just type in Python, the name of your file, and then it will run that. And as you can see, we got 0 all the way up to 99. Now, why did it stop at 99? And what the heck is it? What's going on? Okay, so right here we initialize counter to 0. Then we're saying while counter variable is less than 100, do whatever's in this indented portion. So whatever is in this indented block. And so what we're saying is we'll print the variable and then assign to counter counter plus 1. So it's incrementing counter by 1. And so the reason we only get to 99 is because we get down here and it's 99, so counter is 99, and then counter is 99 plus 1, which is 100. We go into here, we check, well, 100 is not less than 100, so then it exits the loop and it goes out to this tab, which is one tab before it. So you notice we're back on the same line as this while loop. So now if we run this, then you will notice that it will print out exit right at the end. And if you want this to count from 1 to 100, you could just change this to 1 and change this less than or equal to, because now it's going to start at 1 and then it's going to go until it's less than or equal to 100. And then we'll run this one more time, Python temporary.py. And you see we get right to 100 and it starts at 1. Let's draw a little diagram just to explain in greater detail and figure out exactly how this loop is working. So what exactly is going on in this loop? So if you notice at the top, we assign counter to 1. So if you imagine counter as this little box, and then inside that box, we have the value 1. So counter is this, okay? Then we say while counter is less than 100. So then we enter into this loop. So while this box is less than 100, less than or equal to, do whatever's in this box. And this box is everything that's indented one space. And so then we say print counter. So basically we're going to print whatever's in this box. Then we're going to say counter is assigned counter plus 1. So counter plus 1. So let's just go through a couple iterations of what's going to happen. So we get to here, first we check while counter, this guy, is less than 100, 1 is less than or equal to 100. So we enter this box. Then we say print. So we're going to print out 1. Then we're going to say counter is assigned counter plus 1. So that's 1. So we do whatever's on the right hand side first. So we say 1 plus 1 is 2. And then we assign that into counter. So then counter takes on the new value, which is 2. Then we go back to the top. And then we say counter is still less than or equal to 100 because it's 2. So then we print out 2, which is right here. And then we say, okay, now counter is assigned counter plus 1. Well, counter's 2 now, so 2 plus 1 is 3. And then we take out whatever's in counter and we reassign it to be 3. And so on and so forth. So basically this is just repeating whatever is inside this box until this condition fails. You could redo this with whatever you want. So we'll examine just a couple more different examples of what you could do with the while loop. A couple more examples of what you could do with the while loop is, say for example, you wanted to get a user's input, and while the user's input is not some exit condition, you just want to print a message to them. So let's say the user input equals input, enter any text. And then we'll say type Q to quit. And make sure you spell everything right. Okay, so the user input equals whatever the user enters into here. And then we'll say while the user input does not equal Q. So while they haven't typed in Q, do whatever's in here. So then you could do whatever you want. For now, we'll just parrot back whatever they say. So we'll just print the user in, and then we'll actually say print parrot plus user in. So we're just going to parrot it back to them. And then we'll say user in equals input. And then we're just going to copy this because we want it to be this exactly. And this will be the exact same thing. And then we'll be done once we get down to here. So we'll print it just so that we know for a fact that we're done. Then if we type in Python temporary.py, it says enter any text, type Q to quit. I'll say some text, and then it just prints that back out. I'll say some more text, prints it back out. What if I type in a capital Q? Uh-oh, it doesn't quit. Well, that's because capital Q isn't lowercase q. If I type in lowercase q, whoops, without an apostrophe, then it finishes and it presses done. What if you want to make sure, like, just quit if they hit Q, whether it's capital or lowercase? Well, Python gives you a really handy function. Just type in dot lower, and that should be all you need to do. And then we'll hit Python temporary.py. And then if you type in capital Q now, it says done. So this dot lowercase just turns in whatever the user puts in, and it just turns it all into lowercase. You could do the same thing and say dot upper, and if dot upper equals Q, then do the same thing. And then it also works if you want to do a whole word. This way you can just take whatever the user says and convert it to make sure that they're saying exactly this. So now you can say if they type in quit, it quits. Okay, and so you could do several different things with this loop structure. You could calculate values, you could increment values and everything. I encourage you to play around with it. I will start asking you to do some specific problems in the next video after we go over another type of loop to just test your knowledge of this and get more familiar with it and everything. Okay, this is it for the loops, or for the while loops though. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. See you.